And it's on. Okay. You ready? Alright. Dear Lord, thank you for this chance to have a Bible study, a discussion on how to strengthen our connection with you as we learn about ourselves, our minds, our thoughts, our emotions, and our connection to you and how this all works, and begin to improve our lives every day and help those around us. In the name of Jesus, amen.
I'm free. I'm free.
Okay. March 7th, I will just repeat what our sentence was that we ended up with. We're in Nature of Personal Reality, Chapter 5, Session 625. That's what this is from. And we came up with emotions propel thoughts through the barrier from non-physical to physical. So what that tells me is that as we learn to use emotion, it can be the energy that propels the thoughts, that actually breaks the barrier. And earlier in there, Seth had said something about the amount of energy that this requires is more energy than it takes to send a rocket to the moon. So we are using a lot of energy to break this barrier to go from non-physical to physical by our emotions being the force that propels the thoughts. So, obviously still learning about it.
I think I must have done that.
Yeah, you sound a little bit hesitant here.
Well, because remember how I had mentioned I was kind of feeling panicky?
Right, and we talked about that yesterday. Yeah. Right.
And depressed, you know, a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, and how it's really been strong, you know, kind of feelings.
Yeah.
One of the things behind that, well, one was Josh not having a job.
Right.
Or, you know, steady. And the other was Robert not having a job.
Right.
And both of them, plus a lot of prayer from people. People have been praying, you know.
Right.
But now Josh has a job and Robert has a job.
Well, what exactly?
But there was a lot of emotion
okay.
from me.
Okay.
Even though it was like a panic feeling.
Yeah.
But it was real strong emotional feeling about, I'm going to be so thankful when he gets a job.
Okay, so yeah, so you did it right.
Yeah.
You focused on the positive outcome.
Right.
Because most of us, I would guess, worry on the negative side.
Right.
But you were still able to keep it focused.
Yeah, I mean, the panic was still there. But it's like, okay, be thankful when he gets a job.
Good for you. You know, I've used what I've learned from you when I have difficult moments. I say to myself, God will meet my needs, so that it'll calm me down and I will go on with what I need to do. And of course that was one of the first ones that you taught me a long time ago. But now I do have to admit, when I'm in a more stable mood, I'm always thankful. So yeah, I tend to forget that sometimes when I'm more anxious. Okay, let's see where we are, where we made it then. 3:07, so we made it to that break. So we are actually going to move on, and today we will begin session 626. We're still in chapter 5. which is the constant creation of the physical body. Session 626, and in this edition it'll start on page 96, but really that's the italics. We're really going to start up here on page 97. And today's date would be the 14th, is that correct?
That's correct.
March 14th, 2012. All right. Are you ready? All right. And he says, good evening, and then he says humorously, and aside to you. Now, you see, I can speak in time or out of it, and underline time. And this is a joke because Richard Bach came to see Jane, and when Seth spoke, he spoke to Richard Bach, who had wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull, and then Jonathan Bach was on the cover, or Dick Bach was on the cover of Time, and I think Seth was mentioned in the article, and so that's why he made that joke.
Well,
in time and out.
Now,
Yeah.
there's going to be something ironic.
Really?
A coincidence.
What?
I was looking on Netflix right before we were getting started,
Yeah.
just kind of looking at comedies, and there was one I thought you might be interested in watching, and it's called Time.
It's called Time?
Yes.
Okay, I'll look at it.
Isn't that strange?
You mean just now?
Yeah, just within like 5 minutes, I picked that out.
That's a big
And
coincidence.
then now.
Alrighty. Huh. Well, good. I'm glad that we got that on tape. Let me make sure that's running, because that's hot. It's going. Alright, here we go. The physically alive body, its activities and condition are directed through the beliefs of the conscious mind. The body, as explained in this chapter, also has invisible counterparts composed of the electromagnetic properties and interior sound and light qualities. These invisible structures preceded the emergence of the physical body. They also exist after the body's death. While the condition of the body is directed by the conscious mind in life, then, the idea or mental pattern for the body existed before the conscious mind's connection with the physical brain. I just have to stop for a second. Right there in that sentence, again, he didn't make any wishy-washy. He just said, this is the way it is. We have learned, according to him, that the conscious mind exists before the conscious... Well, I don't know then, but there's something here about how the conscious mind connects with the physical brain. The point is, there's been a whole school of thought that believes that consciousness arises out of the physical body's growth, and that leads to consciousness. So at least he's saying that the invisible pattern in the idea or mental pattern for the body existed before the conscious mind's connection. So that's interesting. The genes and chromosomes do not just happen to have within them the precisely definite coded information that will be needed. The data is impressed upon them from within. The identity exists before the form. You could say that the identity existing in another dimension entirely plants the seed into the medium of physical reality from which its own material existence will spring. And I have to say, that's the mental pattern I've come up with after reading this material. It's difficult for me to think in other terms other than that it was just that analogy, that somewhere in some other dimension we exist, and then we sort of plant the seed ahead of time. And that's why the connection between genetics does matter. It's just that the genetics that matter have already been part of the decision made by the conscious mind ahead of time, if that makes sense. Because we exist before we're born. Okay. Therefore, the inner self forms first the invisible body structure, which will later emerge in flesh. At the event of this mental seeding, the conscious mind, in your terms, is obviously not connected with the brain, which has not yet been formed in flesh. The idea of the body is held and made physical by a conscious mind. So he does definitely state then in that sentence that a conscious mind exists before our body is even formed. So this turns everything around, and from Seth's viewpoint then makes it clear that his belief is that this is how it works. And new paragraph. Although that's probably enough. That's plenty. 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs. So somehow out of those 4 paragraphs we have to get a simple sentence. So let's put a date down there so we know where we stop. And then see what we can come up with.
Well, didn't you just say one?
What did I say?
The conscious mind was formed before the flesh exists or something?
Yeah. The conscious mind does exist. A conscious mind does exist before our body is formed. So I think it would be better if we keep it personal and say my conscious mind exists before my body is formed. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. My conscious mind exists before my body is formed. My conscious mind exists before my body is formed. And yeah, the reason this is important is because it definitely flies in the face, or is just the opposite of a whole school of thought that's trying to take hold and explain basically the brain and the mind. And there's huge advances as far as these things like functional MRI and neurophysiology and neurobiology and all these things. However, using this information, what is being said is no matter how advanced we get in understanding all of the physical aspect, it's important to understand that my conscious mind exists before my body is formed. And that sort of just stands on itself. Stands alone. Okay. Can you say closing prayer?
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you, Heavenly Father, for this wonderful Bible study. Thank you for blessing Bill with the ability to have enthusiasm and his desire to teach and share. And thank you, Heavenly Father, for reiterating to us that our conscious mind exists before our body is formed. Thank you for all the blessings that you give to ourselves and those in our hearts and mind. Thank you for everything, all these things harm-free. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. Thank you. I like this new setting here.